Hello everyone, my name is Kristina Pihanich. Welcome to my media analysis project on African American stereotypes and self-perception in rap and hip hop music. There were many reasons I decided to use this as my media analysis project topic. I work with a lot of African American students, and before I moved to the South and started my teaching career 4 years ago, I experienced very little diversity growing up. So when I came here, it was like a culture shock, and I had a lot to learn about the African American culture. And as I did, I just fell in love with it and fell in love with the students. And so learning their culture took time, but now I'm passionate about finding ways to reach this group as they have scored significantly lower than any other subgroup at our school across all content areas. So interacting with the teenagers every day, no matter what race, I know music is their world, and especially with the African American males specifically, but both males and females, they are always plugged into their music. And so I wonder if and how the words that beat into their minds every day affect the stereotypes attached to their race and their own self identity of those stereotypes, and how they live their lives and how they perform in school. I started out initially just basing my research on African American males, but as I continue to research, I've broadened my topic to just African American adolescents. So, my two guiding questions are what African American stereotypes are reinforced in rap and hip hop music, and also to what extent, if any, are African American sense of identity shaped or influenced by rap and hip hop? For my methodology, the first part that I wanted to accomplish was the literature research. I wanted to see what was already out there, what had already been said about rap and hip hop's influence on African American stereotypes and self identity. I wanted more information before I started my own research, just because I think it's easy when we're just submerged in these types of ideas and cultures to have our own perception and to base it just on that. So I didn't want to be biased. So I wanted to see both sides of what was already out there. I then chose to look at the current top 10 rap and hip hop songs, and I decided to use the stereotypes that I gained from my research, both positive and negative, to look through those songs, to analyze their lyrics, to listen to the music, to find out what messages our African American youth hear about their own race when they listen to rap and hip hop. In order to complete this, I listened to each one of the 10 songs and closely analyzed the lyrics to create the comparisons. I created a tally system for each of the songs. And also, what's important to note is that I had to look up all of the slang and inferences to drugs, alcohol, and sex that I may not have been aware of as a adult or as a non African American, or just not being a teenager. So there were a couple sites I had to look into to explain those lyrics in order to appropriately tally those stereotypes. I looked through about 5 different sources and I found a lot of both the positive and negative effects of exposure to rap and hip hop music on African American stereotypes and African American self identity, and also how other cultures and races view African Americans. So I just wanted to put the main points that I gained from my literature research. So I have the positive and the negative here. The positive, just to summarize, They were able to use a cultural lens and ethnic identification to identify rap, which can potentially empower the listener. They can gain political awareness, which is important. Theme of giving and earning respect. Positive effects of therapy. I found a lot of information on that, where clients feel confident and able to express thoughts and emotion, and have also been proven to improve the behavior in academics with rap therapy. It helps students through troubling situations they feel like they can identify with, and just relate to, like those songs describe their life. Hope of success despite odds, formation of identity, and increases in self identity. African Americans feel like they can relate. And then on the negative was more of less surprising. I kind of already had these ideas, but themes of misogyny and materialism. Studies reveal that exposure to violent rap can have significant judgmental implications for African Americans. Big, big focus on materialism, social identity of being crazy or quick tempered. Listeners can become naive to other successful career paths. They can place lower expectations on themselves, such as the likelihood of becoming a criminal or a failure. And a study found that African American females who were heavily exposed to rap were more likely to use alcohol, drugs, and have unprotected sex, and males were more likely to be aggressive. So we see both positive and negative sort of stereotypes there for that kind of music and the effect on African American stereotypes and self identity. This is the tool that I chose to create to analyze and tally the references to both positive and negative attributes or stereotypes in the top 10 rap or hip hop songs, which are listed there on the screen. So, on the positive side, we have cultural or ethnic identification, political awareness, giving, earning respect, positive strategies to dealing with difficulties, and success despite odds. And on the negative side, I have crime, materialism, crazy or quick tempered, misogyny, alcohol or drugs, and references to sexual behavior. So, all of those negative and positive stereotypes were based on my research. For this presentation, I didn't have time to go over all 10 of the songs that I looked at, but I chose three that I felt appropriately represented my findings. So everything in the red or pink area are the negative attributes or stereotypes, and the green are the positive. So for the first song, Humble by Kendrick Lamar, you see that he does talk about success despite odds, but the rest of the song, he mentions materialism, sexual behavior, crime, alcohol, and drugs. And this isn't even accounting those lines being repeated. I just marked them once every time that line came. So for the chorus, I didn't tally each and every time that line came up. For Bad and Bougie by Migos, it's very alarming. Success despite odds is a very, very small piece of the graph there. And we have crime, materialism, crazy or quick tempered, misogyny, alcohol, drugs, sexual behavior. So you see how much of that exposure and those stereotypes are being represented in that song. And then finally, I chose one that had a little bit more positive, I Spy by Kyle. We had dealing with difficulties and success despite odds. And then for the negative aside, materialism, misogyny, alcohol, drugs, and sexual behavior. So those green parts, I feel, are really what attracts those African American students to those songs, feeling like I was in a situation like this and I can get over it. Unfortunately, they're being exposed to much more of the negative stereotypes and attributes of those musics than they are the positive. Overall, the rap and hip hop songs I studied showed negative stereotypes of African Americans over 95% of the time in songs. Even when the positive stereotypes were addressed, such as overcoming the odds, they were mostly addressed in negative ways. For example, if an artist discussed making it out of the hood or their rise to success um, by selling drugs, that was addressed in a negative way. Now, that's not to say that some artists didn't discuss hard work ethic. They did, but most of the time, that success was based on inappropriate behavior. Materialism, crimes, drug, alcohol use, and sexual behavior were the top negative stereotypes represented in rap and hip hop. So, as these African American students and other ethnicities are and races are listening to this music, those are the messages that they're hearing about themselves over and over and over again. And some of those students feel like this is an expectation, a social norm, and even pressure, peer pressure, to act in these ways. And that's what's really alarming to me. A question to consider: was it always this way? Older rap and hip hop have the connotation of being more positive or educational, such as discussing political oppression. I was wondering, with everybody else's either limited or broad experience with hip hop, what you thought about this question. I believe a lot of what we've learned in this class, most of it, can be applied to this topic. I do think of the Inside the Doll study by Anderson Cooper that we watched. The study really affects perceptions of African Americans by both African Americans, Caucasians, and any other subgroup. The studies I researched prove that blacks and whites develop ideas of African Americans based on continual rap music exposure. Also, the Making Whiteness Visible documentary and supplementing articles we read hinge on the idea of white privilege. It's easy as a middle class Caucasian to look past this issue of African American stereotypes embedded in this music and the short and long term effects on African American youth, but it is critical that we do so. This question that I have to consider is: how do you think rap and hip hop have influenced your stereotype development of African Americans? It is a hard question to answer, but it is worth it. To summarize my findings, I learned that rap exposure can have positive, negative, or no effect on my students, and that's what makes this issue very complicated and even more important to be studied in the future. I also learned that there are significantly more negative stereotypes representing African Americans in rap and hip hop than positive ones. So what can we do about this? They're going to listen to it. So how do we approach this? Talk to students about what they're listening to. We can't be afraid to discuss the music just because it has inappropriate school topics. We can't assume that someone else will discuss this with them. We need to be real. We can choose texts or songs for class that portray positive messages in hopes that maybe they can discover new artists and songs and listen to these more frequently. We should be aware of the artists and the political views they have. Students look up to these rap artists, so we need to educate the students or teach them how to educate themselves on political issues. We need to always believe students are capable of learning at high levels despite their race, culture, socioeconomic status, etc. We can't reinforce what these songs are telling them they are. And finally, we need to understand this music is a part of their culture. We can't bring down or demonize what brings them up, or else we will lose them and they won't take anything we say seriously.